That's right.
And here we are, and we are live. And for the first time in years, I'm interviewing somebody who lives a short distance away.
Right.
Welcome to the New Books Network, Tami Lehman-Wilzig.
Wow. Thank you, Mel. Toda rabah. Skip and a
Bevakasha.
jump.
And before I forget, I'm Mel Rosenberg, and I'm the host of the Children's Literature Channel of the New Books Network. And I'm looking for somebody to help, Tami, so behave yourself, otherwise I may enlist you in the future. Anyway, we're celebrating 3 new books in 1 year. You're a remarkable person, but I mean, this is like beyond belief.
It's I have to say, I'm having a hard time keeping up with myself, trying to promote the books. It's a fluke. It's the way the publisher scheduled the release dates, and right.
But two of your books are in the same month, and they're released by the same publisher.
No.
So explain everything.
Okay, so
I might have to correct you, but hold up each book.
Okay.
Who publishes it and when is it?
I have On the Wings of Eagles. That came out in April, Apples and Honey Press. Okay, that was the first one. And that actually, I'll tell you about it afterwards because Alaska Airlines flew me to Alaska to talk about this book. Yes.
That's incredible.
Yes. And the book that's coming out at the end of this month, which is around a 7-month difference between the two of them, is The Hannah Helper, also Apples and Honey Press.
Okay, so I got those two mixed up with Rembrandt. Okay, wonderful.
Yes, and Rembrandt is Carbon, and that came out in September.
Fantastic. So let's have a few words about each of them, and then we're going to go back to baby Tami and catch up. It's been a few years.
I'm a dinosaur, Mel.
You're a dinosaur. I'm a pre-dinosaur.
Okay. Well, we have a long history to discover.
I became extinct before the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs wondered how I became extinct.
Right.
That's an idea for a book.
Write it down.
I'm making a note. Okay. So a few words about each of the books.
Okay, so I will do the Yemenite ones first. On the Wings of Eagles is a very exciting book, which is based on true events. And this is all about the Yemenite Aliyah and the airline that was responsible.
One second. We have a lot of listeners who aren't Jewish. We need to, I know we're two Jews talking, but we need to explain our terminologies here.
Okay.
So Aliyah.
Aliyah is the term that Israelis use and all Jews use when you move to Israel. You are going up into back to your homeland. Aliyah means to go up into. Olalot le. So
which both of us did separately many moons ago.
That's right, during that dinosaur era. So this is about the Yemenite Aliyah, which was a very, very daring airlift that took place over the course of a year and a half. And whenever I ask people, do you know what the airline that was responsible for this airlift? And they all say, oh, it's El Al. And I say, no, Alaska Airlines. Alaska Airlines is unbelievable. And this was before Alaska Airlines, which is now one of the major airlines in America. Back then, they built themselves as the largest non-scheduled airline. They were really just freight. They were involved in certain airlifts already after World War II, which is why they were contacted. Anyhow, this book tells the story through the eyes of a young girl who happens to be an older woman now, one of our dinosaurs like us, living in Ramat HaSharon.
Okay.
And she sat with me and told me all about her whole journey, the journey of having to quickly leave Rada, which is in Yemen, where she lived, and getting to the plane, and it's an amazing story. It's based on her real experiences. They got to Aden and they had never seen an airplane before. It was a tough challenge to get the people on board because they believed that, as the Bible has said, that they will be transported to their homeland on the wings of eagles. So it's a wonderful story, and you can ask me about Alaska afterwards because the
Okay.
children of the pilots showed up. Anyway,
Wow.
so the next book on the Yemenite uh, tribe, we're all tribal, right? So you and I are Ashkenazim, right?
Hmm.
And the Yemenite, this is the next generation, and this is all about in Israel it's called a china ceremony. For the North American ear, a henna ceremony, which is a very, very unique and colorful pre-wedding bridal ceremony. All the different North African tribes have their own china ceremony, but the Yemenite one is by far the most colorful. I'm sure you've been to a ton. I've been to a ton. They're just wonderful. And this is all about a little girl named Gali who thinks it's an old-fashioned custom and she really wants to get rid of it and just have her grandmother focus on the fact that she's going to be a flower girl at the wedding, which is for Israel a fairly new addition. When we made Aliyah, there was no such thing as flower girls, right? And this is how a very savvy grandmother is able to get her granddaughter engaged in this wonderful custom and make her Hachina assistant. So that's why it's called the henna helper.
So the first book, the On the Wings of Eagles, comes from your association with this neighbor
No, no,
in
no,
Kfar
no,
Saba.
no, 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 no. I read about it. What
Mhm.
inspired me to write it? Is that what?
No, but because people are going to say, you're an Ashkenazi Jew writing about the Yemenite Jews. It's almost not own voices.
Cultural appropriation.
Yeah,
I think, if you research something very well and you get to know the people really, really well, um, you can definitely pull it off. And there's a Yemenite heritage center that's in Rosh Ayin. They were thrilled to hear that I was going to write something about this. It didn't dawn on them.
I'm
So,
thrilled that you wrote about it.
yeah, I know that. I think though that maybe things are beginning to lighten up about cultural appropriation because you can really write about another culture. And I spent a lot of time with this woman whose name today is Leah Maudi, and back then she was called Hala, and which was a Yemenite name, and her mother was a seamstress. She explained to me how she got the name Hala. Her mother was a seamstress for a Muslim woman named Hala, and when she was born, Hala, the Muslim customer, wanted to have the baby named after her, and so it came about. You know,
What? Sorry, one of the many things that people don't understand about Israel is that we have here Jews from, I don't know, 150 different countries, most of them kicked out refugees.
yes.
And each tribe, as you say, preserving its own unique Jewish customs, which are different. Most Jews here do not eat gefilte fish, and that's part of the unique culture and heritage here. That we literally have foods here from over 100 different traditions, which is like my idea for your next book, something with food, um, and
I've been
and
thinking about that.
and you should. And your third book, which I find the most intriguing of this trilogy here. It's not a trilogy,
About a
trifle.
trilogy, Rembrandt's Blessing.
Hmm.
Yes. What would you like to know?
No, I mean this one isn't a book about Yemenites. It's a book about Jewish refugees from
Well,
Portugal,
from
from the
Portugal.
Inquisition,
That's right.
uh,
That's right.
who sought
Here
refuge in Amsterdam.
yeah, so I have sort of a tiny, tiny personal connection in that I'm always fascinated by Sephardim and why. My father came from Vienna. His original name was not Lehman. He had to change that because of anti-Semitism. His name was Sprinzelis. and which was the German variation of Esperanza. And they were Jews from Portugal, and they must have become Ashkenazified, which I find is unusual, but I've heard it from many family members. It wasn't just my father. When my father first told me, I said to myself, oh, a fable, something like that. But there are a lot of relatives here in Israel that tell me the same story. So I guess there's something to it. So the Jews here, Rembrandt, I think around 20, 25 years ago, my husband and I took our first trip to Amsterdam, and we went to Rembrandt's house, and which is in the Jewish neighborhood. He, by mistake, he thought he was going to be living amongst the artists in the artist quarter. And, like he bought the house, moves in, and then he looks at the people around him, and they don't look like artists. They don't look Dutch at all. But he happened to have been a big fan of the Bible. He loved the Bible. So this was for him very, very, very exciting. And then he could have them. His neighbors could be his models. And when we first went to Amsterdam, there was one room in the house that was devoted just to paintings and sketches of Jews. And I remember asking the docent, I was just so taken aback. I said, I asked her, could you please explain what this is? Like, why are there so many Jewish portraits? And she said, well, these were his neighbors. Last year, we went back to Amsterdam, our third trip. They had just finished doing renovations, and that room no longer exists. And they have now interspersed, and not all of them, some of the paintings in every room. So, but that got me thinking, that trip. And it really was just, wouldn't that get you thinking? Wow, that's like something for a book.
I don't know. I can tell you one thing. I don't know when I'm going to get thinking. And one of the things that you've written about in your own bio is that you have no idea where the ideas come from.
That's right.
It's always easy in retrospect to say, oh, I got the idea here when I was walking down the street, when a piano fell on my head. Yeah, sure. But basically, we don't really know, I think, where the ideas come from. And there's a whole montage of things from our past that somehow come together. That's what I think. Anyway, so this is a lovely book. And it came to be, and it's out right as we speak with Carbon. Can you read a little bit from it? Maybe show us a little bit of the artwork.
Sure, the artwork is just gorgeous. She's a young woman from Italy, Anita Barghigiani. I probably am not saying that correctly. Well, here's a picture. It says here, young Rembrandt loved Bible stories. He imagined what the Bible's heroes and heroines looked like, and he began to draw them. His mother read him Bible stories all the time. As Rembrandt grew, so did his talent. Painting scenes from Bible stories was his passion. When he became an adult and made enough money from painting portraits, he bought a home in Amsterdam. And here you see the different portraits. Aren't these just gorgeous illustrations?
Mm-hmm.
I think that some of them are just breathtaking. Many of his neighbors, wait, I'll just show you here pictures of the neighbors. Okay, that I said that looked strange to him. Many of his neighbors had dark eyes and hair, olive skin, and unfamiliar names like Rodriguez, Pinto, and da Costa. They were Jews whose families had originally come from Portugal. Rembrandt was happy to be surrounded by the people of the book, the same people he imagined when he painted Bible scenes. Now he had always painted what he thought Jewish people looked like. Now they were his neighbors. Perhaps some of them would agree to pose for his paintings. Do you want me to go on?
No, did Rembrandt actually write about? Because we know that he happily used the Jewish subjects as models. But did he write anything about his relationship with the Jewish community in Amsterdam?
Well, I don't know if he particularly wrote about it, but he became very friendly with one of the leading rabbis, Menashe ben Israel, who's one of the main characters here. And
that is documented, Tammy.
that is documented. That is documented. You can find it all over, like, and there, I read a book, Rembrandt and the Jews, and now the name of the author is escaping me, of course, and but that also deals with his relationship with the Jewish community there. And Menashe ben Israel and he had a lot of things in common. They both obviously loved the Bible, and they both loved the world of printing, and they both became printers. So this was one of the things that bound them together, and
Oy vey, Tommy. Bound
oh,
them together. Oy vey. Okay.
I was an advertising copywriter for
Yeah,
35 years.
you know what? It shows. It shows. Bound them together.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Listen, I'm going to paint a different picture. Ah.
All right.
Um, he did ask Rembrandt to illustrate a book that he printed himself. And the book is mentioned here as well. And by the way, this Rabbi Menashe ben Israel was very important for British Jews. He was the rabbi who this is brought up here too. He goes to London and he convinced Cromwell to let the Jews back into England. The Jews had been
Wow.
right. So that's documented clearly, all his portraits.
England has a very long record of anti-Semitism dating
Yes.
way back to the Middle Ages.
Yes. Yes.
We're not going to go into that.
No. And we're not tying it into today, too.
We're not going to talk about the First Crusade and all the Jews in York being burned. We're not going to go there. Okay. So where are we going to go? So you have these three beautiful books on Jewish topics. You've lived in Israel for decades. Tell us now about little Tammy growing up in New York, in Manhattan.
In Manhattan, on the Upper West Side. Look, I think when I think back on it now, and I am still in touch almost on a weekly basis with my closest friend from seventh grade.
Wow.
And I say to her all the time, Riva, we grew up in a bubble. Like that when we look about what's going on today, because it was just idyllic, like for Jews, like New York was so Jewish, the Upper West Side in particular. And I lived in an amazing building with a lot of people from the Jewish Theological Seminary there. And also Breakstone's cottage cheese, and also Horowitz Margaret and Matzah's, the owners of those two companies. I mean, it was really an amazing building. And
You had no trouble getting bagels or smoked fish.
hey, listen, I remember on the flight back when I was in college, right, to Boston, I went to Boston University. Mrs. Margaretin gave her grandson, who was like a year or two ahead of me, like matzah that he put in what we call a James Bond suit. How would you call that? It's a
Suitcase.
not really. No,
Briefcase.
it's not a suitcase. It's a briefcase.
Briefcase. Yeah.
And he opened it up, and there was like a file. Remember, there were these files, and each one had a slice of matzah. And on the plain back, he was distributing slices of matzah from Miss Margaretin. I mean, it was just crazy. So yeah. And
And
the Zabars, where Mr. Zabar, who just passed away. Yeah, these were the fixtures. Being close to, I always say growing up in Manhattan is just such an atypical childhood. I didn't go out bike riding every day. I was on the Broadway bus going to a different museum or a play, especially as I got older,
and writing books from the age of 9.
Yeah, but that was just, like a little thing here or there. I mean,
how did you get into the writing business, and how did you end up in Israel?
Two different, very, very two different stories. The writing business.
No, I asked them together so I wouldn't forget.
Yeah, but now I have to remember both of those questions. Like remember we're dinosaurs. So writing, I always liked to write. I am forever indebted to Mrs. Martha Weingarten, who was my English teacher in the 10th and 11th and 12th grades, who recognized my talent for writing, and she actually nurtured it. And if she were alive today, I would be sending her so many fan letters and telling her how indebted I am to her. So that she started me on that. It was always just a hobby. I always say that when I got my first children's book, published, the people that were happiest the most were my two sons, because they could then stop listening to my stories. I would always say, "Hey, I have another story. You want to hear it?" You know,
I have grandchildren like that.
that don't want to hear your stories, or you're telling them,
Of, of course, they don't want to hear my stories, but
wow.
I bribe them. You see, but what they don't know is that I would bribe them anyway. But
Oh, I have to know how you do this because my granddaughter announced to me the other day, Safta, אנחנו לא קוראים. This is the, like Safta, we don't read. This is the
well,
non-reading generation.
well, because my granddaughter, who is 12, uh, has to study English, and so I managed to wrap it around her studies in a good way.
Okay.
With taking her for whatever she wants, hot chocolate and so on.
Uh-huh. Okay.
It usually comes with food, something with chocolate.
Right. Okay. I got it.
I'm just giving you lots of ideas for your next book, by the way. Okay.
Okay.
So you grew up in New York and you had this sheltered bubble existence in the West Side
My
with
father worked
fish
for
and bagels and matzah.
right,
Your dad worked for the
Jewish agency. And here comes that's obvious the Israel connection. He was originally from Vienna. We had so many pictures. He was the director of the Theodor Herzl Institute of the Jewish Agency, which was adult education programs. And we had so many pictures of Herzl in our house, hanging in our apartment, who was from Vienna. And my father was from Vienna. I was convinced that they were cousins. And my parents literally schlepped me here for my first trip in 1967 against my will. And there was a lot of, how do you say, masao matan?
negotiations.
Negotiations, and as my father said afterwards, it was his biggest mistake because I came here. First of all, he never told us about the huge family that he had here. And you don't really fall in love with a country, Mel. I think you'll agree. You fall in love with the people. And it was a real wild love story. I mean, I couldn't get over them. I couldn't get over my cousins. I couldn't get over the people that I met. And so when it was time to leave Israel, there was negotiations again because I didn't want to leave. And so the negotiations led to 3 more consecutive summers in Israel in different programs. And I announced to my parents, I'm going to be moving to Israel. And I actually, when whenever I dated in university, the first question on the first date was, "So what do you think of Israel?" And if the person had negative feelings or said, "Huh," that was the end of the date. And my husband was the first one who said, "Oh, I love it." And I said, "Yeah, would you ever live there?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh, wow, 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 wow." And then he paused and he said, "When I retire." And I said, "When you retire, don't call me." So that's sort of that's how we moved. I mean, I had to be here. I had to be here. I felt at home. And
It could be me talking now. I think that people who don't like Israel, don't understand Israel, are the people who have never been to Israel. But I don't want to turn this into a political thing or a.
I don't know.
We're talking about writing. So, how old? I don't want people to know how old we are. And I'm much
I'm
older
not
than you.
embarrassed. I'm 75.
You're 75.
Yes.
You're such a young dinosaur. And oh my goodness. And when did you start? I mean, I know you've been in copywriting all these years and you had your own agency. And then one day you had this mishigas, this crazy idea of writing children's books.
No, I told you I always wanted to write children's books. I was driving my kids crazy. And then I was an advertising copywriter for all the major exporters. And
Mhm.
whenever a bomb would go off or whatever would happen, the first group of people or in business to be hit were the exporters. All of a sudden, orders would be canceled. So you can imagine during the Second Intifada, my business was in a terrible slump. I did not want to close. And then I said to myself, but hey, I've got all this time on my hands. This is a great opportunity to try my hand at writing a children's book. Now, it just so happens that a year and a half before that, Palfoot, which is like the American greeting cards of Israel, they had hired me to write a cookbook. There you go, Mel. I have written about food, but we'll talk about that food.
And I remember that. You have a book which is about Israel and has recipes in it.
It's called The Melting Pot. And it was
Yeah.
this tiny little book, like that, that it was a great concept. It was their concept that, they could buy more than one, like 5, because they were so small, you could easily, like tuck it into your suitcase. And this is your souvenir you're bringing back and giving out to everybody. And it was a beautiful production, full color, and with the top food photographer, Nellie Schaefer. I remember now, it was fantastic. And I learned a lot about the reason they turned to me was because they found out from the Israel Export Institute that I was the main copywriter for food. So
you were the food blogger 30 years before there were food blogs.
before there was blogging, right? So in any event, what I did learn from that whole experience was the #1 book out in the world that's still today, the #1 book is
The Bible.
correct. The #2 genre that is most read by people around the world is
Porn.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
The
Porn,
third. The
porn,
third.
porn cookbooks. No.
Now,
Anyhow,
Tami, now we're getting too many ideas here.
that's not for kids. That's not for kids. So the #2 genre is cookbooks. Now I knew that there were a lot of Bible story books out there, okay, for kids, and that there were a ton of cookbooks out there for kids. And so I started to dig, was there any one book that combined the two? And there wasn't. This was like, using when you're an advertising copywriter for 35 years, you learn a little bit about marketing, right? So I said to myself, there's nothing on it like that in the market. So I wrote 2 sample chapters. Each story, I picked 14 stories. Each one has a food peg, and each one has a matching recipe. And I put together a proposal and I sent it to Carbon. Carbon, by the way, has been my main publisher in terms of the amount of books that they have published. And back then, Judy Groner, who was the co-founder of Carbon, was still running Carbon with her co-partner, Madeline, and they just fell in love with it. So that's how it all began.
Okay, and now we're up. I've lost count. Maybe 20 books later.
16. Since
60?
then, no. Since 15 more books,
60?
not 60, 16. Sweet.
So 20 is it's not a bad book, yes.
No, actually, I have a Hebrew book, Sliklak, that's 17.
Yeah.
The Melting Pot is 18.
And next year.
Right now, there's nothing down the pipe.
So this brings me to my next question. Even people who publish children's books with big publishers don't really make a living. And you publish with small Jewish publishers. I don't even know, do they give you an advance for the books?
Yeah. Yes.
A few $1,000.
Yeah.
And
Not 2,000, it's 1,000 plus.
$1,000+. So it's
Yeah.
between $1,000 and $1,200. That's okay. I'm not going to ask you any more financial questions. It's not money that you can get rich by writing children.
Do you want to know the first thing that Judy Groner said to me when she sent me the contract?
Of course.
Don't give up your day job.
Exactly. She should have said, this will cost you money. You think we're paying you, but wait.
Yeah.
So here's my question. You write such lovely books, and they're all on Jewish subject. They're for the Jewish community. Why haven't you reached out to other publishers on other subjects that aren't Jewish subjects, or have you? This is something I ask all my friends who are Jewish writers. It's great to write about Jewish stuff and Jewish holidays and Jewish events, Jewish history, and God knows, literally speaking here, that we have enough stories. But have you tried to reach out to the wider public?
No, no, I have to say I'm just so enamored with our rich history and heritage. That's where I want to be. And that's where I want to be able to share stories with Jewish children, especially in America, so that they would get a sense of pride that this is much more than Judaism is not just a religion. We're a culture, we're a lifestyle, we're a history, we're just so much, and that's the message I want to get across. And then Mel, I got to be honest with you. I'm saying myself, the general world, the general public, right? Is there anything that I can add that hasn't been done out there? You know,
Of course.
yeah, but I don't feel like, I don't know. I don't want to use the word mission, but I feel like this is what I want to do. This is where I want to tell the story of Alaska Airlines bringing Yemenite Jews who had never seen an airplane in their life, like to safety in Israel. That's the kind of story I want to tell about Rembrandt and how the impact of a Sephardi rabbi had on his work. It's it,
Tammy, you grew up in a New York Upper West Side bubble, and I grew up in Ottawa in Canada in the other kind of a bubble. In my high school with 2,000 kids, there were maybe 30 or 40 Jewish kids, and there were people who hated Jews. They'd never seen a Jew before. They thought when they met me, they said, "How could you be Jewish? You're so nice. Where are your horns?" And so maybe because of our different upbringing, um, I feel that I also have a responsibility to write books that are not just about being Jewish, so that people who aren't Jewish, if they like the books, they'll know there's a Jewish guy in Israel named Mel Rosenberg who writes stories, good stories. And
I
and, and I'll be frank with you. I have never been able to publish a Jewish story. So I'm like, it's like some kind of
all
mirror
right.
image of
Great. You triggered an idea in my head in terms of why am I so intent? Um, I was a very rebellious kid, like when I said my father schlepped me here, and so I went to a Ramaz day school, which is really considered the creme de la creme, and I wanted to, and we had enhanced everything, like all the Judaic topics, and I decided after ninth grade it wasn't for me, and I wanted to make sure that I wanted to leave. My father, you have to understand, was a personality in New York, not just the Upper West Side, all of New York. All the people who ran Ramaz knew my father. I purposely flunked out of Ramaz to make sure they wouldn't take me back. So, and then I went to this private school, which was called the Franklin School, no longer exists. And the student body was 95% Jewish. And they are the ones who strengthened my Jewish identity. They had such an anti-feeling towards Judaism, like that. I always remember two things. Number one, Yom Kippur for them was the day to go to Saks Fifth Avenue in Bloomingdale's because nobody was there, right? And I'll never forget, we had I think he may have been Egyptian. We had an Arab teacher for I think it was math. He was a wonderful man. And he naively thought that all Jews, like celebrate all their holidays. And this man knew a lot more about Judaism than these schmucky kids, because they were making fun of me a lot, and the real finale of making fun of me came in one of his classes. He comes in, it was I think February, March. He wanted to schedule a test 2 months down the road, and he knew Shavuot was coming up. He said, listen, I want to schedule a test, but I know you have a holiday coming up. So just tell me when it is. They're all looking at him, blank faces. I'm sitting in the back row, and they go, huh? And he goes, yes, you have a holiday. It's coming up. And he's prodding. Finally, the clown of the class, whose name was Philip Greenberg, gets up and goes, my English name is Carol. Carol Lehman, the Jew. What's he talking about? Whoa, if anything gave me a feeling of strong Jewish identity was Philip Greenberg calling me the Jew, right? And this teacher his name I can't remember, he was so embarrassed, but so embarrassed. He asked me to please stay after class and then apologized for what happened. So maybe because of that experience, and I saw what kids who have no background, Jews, and how they had no appreciation at all. And back then, like I was rebellious. Don't forget, I didn't, I just, wanted to have a good time too. But maybe later on in adulthood, as an author, that was subconsciously back there in the back of my mind.
Look, I think that it's really important. In the States, we have PJ Library that they do something. I don't know how many of your books have been carried by them,
I
but
have good
they
news.
okay. I'm anticipating, and they donate or they sell at cost or below cost hundreds of thousands of books on Judaism to kids in America who are Jewish but really don't know anything about their culture beyond the religion. So now tell me your good news with PJ.
And I'll tell you also a PJ related story. So I just received word from Apples and Honey Press that PJ has taken The Henna Helper as one of their spring selections, which now makes my fifth book with PJ Library. So I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. And now I want to tell PJ, if any PJ people are out there, what a great job you're doing and how you really are getting to the public. And I had a personal experience recently. I have a book called SOOSIE, the Horse That Saved Shabbat, which won several awards and published by Kalaniot. And one day I get this email from Lillian, who's the publisher at Kalaniot, and she said, I thought you might want to see
Know
this.
her well. She's
Yeah,
been on the show.
she's wonderful, Lillian. They come
She's
here.
been at our house. Yes.
Yes. So it's written by this little girl. I'm not going to say the names, okay? And she has drawn a picture of Susie, which sort of looked like a dinosaur, Mel, but it didn't have either your face or mine. But anyhow, so uh, and she said, Susie, I really love you, and I want to know, understand how does a horse save Shabbat? And she wrote something else I can't remember. And the father then also wrote his own letter, and he said his daughter has him read Susie to her 3 times a day. And so he said, if you could, send her something, I think
Okay,
she would
okay,
love it.
okay, Tammy, can you stop writing these delicious books so I don't have to read them all the time to my kids?
So anyhow, I read this and I said, wow, this is a no-brainer. I wrote to Lillian and I said, I will do a Zoom author reading with this kid, one-on-one if she wants. And he actually sent his address to Kalanio to send if they want to send something. And I said, but if I send them an invitation through the mail from Israel, and you know that what the snail mail here is like, it's going to arrive in 3 years. So I wrote a letter as though Susie was writing it to the little girl. And then I said, if you want, Tommy's happy to read my story to you. Here's her email address. We just had that reading a few days ago.
Wow.
And it was, and I said to him, and I knew it, this was a PJ Library selection. They had taken it a second time and it went out again this past March. And I said, so you got this from PJ Library? And he said, yes. And then he just couldn't stop praising the books that he gets from PJ Library. So PJ people out there you have it. Not that they need it, like they know, I'm sure.
Look, I'm tremendously indebted to PJ in the States and in Israel, but this program is about you. So, Tammy, in conclusion, because night is going to set soon, it's been so wonderful having you, and I'd like to know what's next. Do you have other things that are in the pipeline?
I'm working on a few stories right now, but authors keep those things close to their chest. So I will say that one is on a biblical character who has never, ever, ever been touched.
Oh,
And another is on an Israeli female scientist, more of a
oh,
biography. And a third one is set in Venice. That's all. Those are the hints.
Wonderful. And I should say, lest people think that it's easy to be published by Jewish presses, it's incredibly hard. I've never succeeded. The chances are one in a zillion billion. I know Lillian from Columbia very well. I've pitched her umpteen books, and it's always, Mel, this is a lovely story, but and you've done it so many times. Any pieces of advice for the community?
Well, first of all, Mel, I want you to know that because I've been published by Lillian, by Carbon, who I mentioned, and Apples and Honey, I cannot tell you how many rejections I've received from all three, and continue to receive. So that's the first word of advice: is
So
don't give up. Don't give
Vivian
up.
Kirkfield's 5 Ps: patience, perseverance, passion, and two others I can't remember right this second.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you're passionate about writing and writing about specific topics, do it. Just keep on writing, writing, writing. And by the way, SOOSIE was turned down by the two others, like, a few years before. And I said, well, I'll give it another shot. What do I have to lose? And you never know. So that's really one. And I think it's very important for authors to find their voice. That each one of us has our own voice. And I think that it's something that every one of us should hone and really create. It's very significant as an author for your style to work on that also.
Okay, wonderful. So it's always wonderful having guests. It's very rare that I get to interview somebody who lives about 10 miles away from me and such a similar background. So Tami Lehman-Wilzig, it was great interviewing you. We're celebrating 3 books coming out in the same year.
It
Now's
was
the time
great being here, Mel.
hold on, no, we're now bragging again. So On the Wings of Eagles with Apple and Honey. Now this is the cue for you to raise the book. Okay. The Henna Helper,
The Henna Helper.
also Apples and Honey, out
Yes,
this year. And Rembrandt's Blessing, Carbon,
yes.
another wonderful book by Tami. It
The
was
Henna Helper
great.
coming out October 29th.
Ah,
The other two
right.
are already out.
Okay, but they can be pre-ordered.
Yes, absolutely. Place your orders now.
Absolutely. So everybody, you've seen
איזה
Tami.
כיף, איזה כיף להיות איתך.
Her books. Thank you. Her books are lovely, and you're lovely, and I just may there be many dinosaurs like you on this planet. may may we never go extinct.
I hope so.
Tammy,
Thank
it's
you.
been great. We're going to
Thank
say
you. It's been
shalom,
wonderful being with you.
shalom, peace to everybody, and we're going to go out and come back in and sum up just you and me.
Okay.
And to everybody else, shalom, bye bye,
להתראות.
from the Holy Land, and we'll see you next week.
Bye bye.